when someone's, been in the program as long as Emmanuel, but, back to when he was, rehabbing his leg, senior year of high school, when you think of his senior night, does that hit especially hard? And, what do you think of most when you think of Emmanuel?
Um, well, this is my 37th senior night. Emmanuel would probably be my 100th kid that's had some kind of debilitating injury and had to come through it and then make it to his senior year. And those are always the kids that I admire the most. Um, the only thing that can keep you from getting injured is God. And sometimes the only thing that can injure you is God. Everybody wants somebody to be fix everything, or why does this guy have that, or why does that guy have that? Those are questions that should never even been asked. You got any common sense, you'll know that um, nobody can control any of that. Um, but I saw on it was during COVID when Emmanuel got hurt, and that was a gruesome injury, his leg placement and how it happened. Um, but he's got such great parents. The fact that they're both professional basketball players, but also professional mothers and fathers. And when we approached Derek and Tina about the plan that we'd like to implement for Emmanuel, they were all for it. So Emmanuel did not play his senior year in high school. Now he was not going to play, but the fact that they allowed him to come here, and then having two professionals that are elite in their fields in John Houston and Alan Bishop. So Emmanuel was away from us, and that was that the year after the Final Four? That might have been, what year was it? Was that 21, 22? Something like that. I think it was the year after the first Final Four. But he came in as a kind of a little bit overweight, as would be normal. But I remember he went on a trip with us. I think it was to South Florida. Right away, I noticed that he could really shoot. Of course, we knew that when we recruited him, obviously. But just seeing him in person, I didn't get to see him in person because of COVID. But to see where he started and where he is now, as a coach, you're just so proud of him. You know, um, these kids spend more time with me than they do their parents over the course of time they're enrolled in school here. Um, and so you get a closeness with them that nobody else has. So, because I've seen him at his worst, I've seen him at his lowest, I've seen him at his best, and I've seen him at his highest. Um, but when they get to this point in their careers, and this goes for everybody that you've asked me that question about, because every year there's always somebody. Um, you know, you're just like a proud. I'm not their father, but in a lot of ways, I am a father figure, a mentor. As a mentor and as a father figure, you just bust your buttons. You stick your chest out and you look at him, and your mind races back, and you think about his lowest moments, his toughest days, and then how he came through all of that, and it made him into the person you are. For somebody to be the best version of yourself, you have to have bad experiences. You have to have bad nights. You have to have bad days. All of your experiences, good or bad. And it's important that both are balanced. It's like asking somebody had a bad shooting night. Bad shooting nights are part of the deal. You don't have great shooting nights every night. You don't play your best every night. But being able to stand strong during the storm, um, and then when the storm passes, you've gained strength and you've gained knowledge because you came through the storm. That's what I'll remember most about Emmanuel.
Chris, do you have another question, or
Uh, yeah, sure, Jeff.
go ahead?
Calvin, Baylor's won two of three and pushed Arizona, to the end in the other game. How have you seen that team improve?
Well, the biggest difference in them now versus then was they were playing Yesufu at the three, and they were bringing the William kid off the bench. Now they moved Yesufu to the four. They're playing Carr at the three, and they're playing their two guards, Williams and uh, Agdam. Um, and then they're rotating their fives with Powell and Rataj. And then the Skillings kid, he got hurt in our game, and he was out for a while, but he's back playing well. So, um, and then they have Scott Drew. Scott's a great coach. Always has a good plan. It was a great win they had over Central Florida, and it was and they put and you're right. They gave Arizona um, everything they wanted. But I think um, when you've got a talent like Yesufu, um, you know, there's there's a there's a lure or an attraction to play him at the three. But for them, moving him to the four, I really think changed their team.
Thank you, Chris. We'll go to Jason Bristol with KHOU TV. Jason, please go ahead.
Morning, Kelvin. I imagine what you talked about with Emanuel likely applies to Ramon in some aspects as well. When you look at Ramon's journey, what are you most proud of when it comes to Ramon's development and his journey at within your program?
I was thinking about when I heard that Texas Tech beat Iowa State the other day without Toppin. One of the first things I thought about was Marcus Sasser and Tremont Mark and Ramon Walker. I thought about Ramon. That's tough losing a kid like Marcus Sasser going into conference play. Uh, really tough losing Tremont Mark, but now you're losing them both. But you've got to go play. We had a lot of people that doubted us. And you guys can't do this or can't do that. Um, um, which was fine. But the guy that bailed us out that year was Ramon. We had no depth. Remember the Kyler Edwards had a grade three ankle sprain the same night that Marcus broke his foot during the game. And so our next game was Temple, which was the first game of the conference tournament. I think that was 21-22 season, if I'm not mistaken. You guys can correct me on that if I'm wrong. Um, um, but Ramon had surgery on his hand. Um, you know, like most accidents, they're freaky or flukish. And I think Kyler fell on his hand and I can't remember, something with his vein, detached vein or something. But he was out for like 6 or 7 weeks. And then um, his first game, I think, was the same night Marcus got hurt, um, December 20, the night of the 22nd, 2021. And so we go to Temple, first conference game. We have Jamal Shed, um, Tajay Moore, and Ramon Walker. Up front, we had Fabian and Reggie. I think that was our lineup that night. Can't remember who was coming off the bench. I know we had no other guards. I think our backup guard would have been Fabian. But, we all have to do what we got to do with injuries, right? Nobody's unique in having to deal with injuries. We all do it. But Ramon Walker saved that team. Remember, we beat the Big Ten champion, Illinois, to go to the Sweet 16. I remember Ramon's minutes. And then the number one seed was Arizona. We beat them to go to the Elite Eight. So we're 40 minutes away from going to back-to-back Final Fours. But the player that impacted that team was Ramon Walker. Ramon Walker's last high school game, or I'm sorry, Jamal Shedd's last high school game was Maynard High School was playing Shadow Creek at the Campbell Center. Um, and I sat there and watched Jamal and Ramon, and I said, those are going to be two good players for us because they fit us. They're tough, and they're great kids. And when I look back at Ramon Walker's career, um, he's had to dodge a lot of landmines, but even when he got nicked, he never stopped. He is a tremendous life lesson for a lot of young men. He's persevered. He's graduated, got his degree, just as Emanuel has, Khalifa has, um, and Milos. All four of these young men will graduate um, from the University of Houston, except for Khalifa. He got his degree from Sam Houston State. Um, they're all high character kids. They've all been part of the kind of success that people dream about. Um, but we would not have had that success without any of the four. Um, really proud of Milos's journey. And these careers that people from afar look at are exactly that. They're journeys. The journeys are full of adversity. They're full of failure. They're full of storms. They're full of potholes. But that's what makes the journey. Hang in there with it. Don't overreact. Just come the next day with the right attitude and give the right level of effort, and eventually you're going to come out on top. And um, Ramon is a tremendous example of that. Jason, he's um, there's some kids you come through, you say, he's probably going to be a good coach one day. Um, but all of his lessons, whether they were good or bad, all of his life experiences, whether they were good or bad, gives him a chance to share that and help someone else grow because of the mistakes or injuries or adversity or whatever I had to go through. But that is a big thing for kids that come through this program is growing through your adversity and allowing your adversity to help shape who you are, and don't run from it. And Ramon's never run from anything. I love Ramon Walker. I love Emmanuel Sharp. I love Milo Juzan, and I love Khalifa Sacco. Um, although I'd be glad when Ramadan's over.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. We'll go to Chancellor Johnson, please. Chancellor, please go ahead.
Hey, good morning, Kelvin.
Good morning, Chancellor.
To the point on Emmanuel Sharp, with him holding the program record for three-pointers made in this era of college basketball where guys don't stay, that often, how difficult do you think it will be to break that type of record, and just how much does that speak, obviously, to the level of shooter that he is?
Um, well, all records are made to be broken, so I'm sure somebody will come along and break it. When Marcus said it, I'm gonna be honest, I didn't even know Marcus had said it. I don't really sit around thinking about all these records, I guess, but um, but our kids stay. So the the other schools where their kids leave. Now we're going to have some years where we have more than one kid leave at that time because they all want to go somewhere and play. And if they're not playing somewhere, some of them won't stay here and develop. They'll leave. But up to this point, what you just said doesn't apply to us, which is why our kids can be in a position to break these records. That's why if you look at the all-time winningest player and his players in the history of the school, they're all kids that played in this program. And because they stayed, they're in a position where they can break those records. But at least while I'm coaching, I hope somebody comes along and breaks all the records. If not, then I hope they break them for Kellen.
Thank you, Chancellor. We'll go back to Chris Baldwin, please. Chris, go ahead.
Kelvin, Cleef had some strong moves in the post. He scored against two guys one time. I know you've only had him for this season, and he's had some health issues, but how have you seen him improve?
The Mississippi State exhibition game was really the first time I saw where he could help us. because he didn't have a summer and he didn't have a fall, and that matters early. Um, but the Auburn game in Birmingham, uh, early in November, you could see a glimpse there. And then he was really, really rolling, having great practices, and then trying to remember the game. I think it was Middle Tennessee State. Um, I think it was Isaiah fell and just fluke accident, rolled into his knee, strained his strained his knee, and so he was out what 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks. But he's back playing good again. Pleasant kid, great kid. When I say great kids, I am one of the most blessed coaches ever. Um, but then again, it's intentional. It's not a surprise that we have great kids. Um, because that's part of our evaluation process. The village idiot can tell you who the best players are, but he can't tell you who the best players are for you. And that's always been our strength in building this program, is evaluating the character of the players we want to build our program with. And Khalifa, Milos, Emanuel, and Ramon. It's been an honor for me to coach those young men, and I will cherish and celebrate every success they have, and the rest of my life. And I know all four is going to go on and do great things for themselves and their families.
Thank you. We'll go to Michael Carrara from Houston Cougars on SI. Michael, please go ahead, sir.
Morning, Coach.
Good morning.
For Jojo to respond the way he did, out of just racking up 3 fouls in the first half and then being able to play a clean brand in the second half, just going with scoring double figures, how important is that, especially considering his recent skids in foul trouble and just toward the back half of a league play entering March?
Michael, that ain't recent. You must have just started following us this week or this month. But Jojo played really good the last half against Kansas. I mean, really good. Stayed in there. A lot of times a lot of times these fouls aren't necessarily JoJo's fault. A lot of the time there's awkward contact. There's absolutely no advantage either way. There's no advantage, disadvantage. Used to be the foul call came down to advantage, disadvantage. And then it became freedom of movement. Then it was restriction. So the way the game is called has really changed over the last 40 years. 10 years ago, JoJo would never be in foul trouble. He barely ever get a foul. But now, that's just been such a big emphasis. JoJo probably came along in the wrong era because of the way he plays. But a couple of his fouls the other day, his first one where he took the kid's legs out, that's because he missed the 1 foot jump hook. And then he tackled the guy before he went out of bounds. But it was a good tackle because it was clean, brought him right down. But I was pleased with the way JoJo played both ends of the floor. He blocked shots. We're always tweaking our offense, little things here or there based on what we need to do. We've always done that. Well, about 10 days ago, we were 23-2. A whole lot of tweaking going on, but now we've run up on some things need to tweak. And JoJo's probably a lot better at facing the basket, driving it, than he is posting up. Everybody has strengths and weaknesses. I've yet to find the perfect player or the guy that never misses or never makes a mistake. I haven't found one of those guys yet. But I know one thing. JoJo's made this program better just by his presence. But that's the value of Khalifa. Obviously, we're better when JoJo's in, because very few people have his unique skill set. But Khalifa's done a really good job while he's in. in there. Last year we had two really good fives in Joe and Jay. And this year, Jojo's getting better, and so is Khalifa. I'm excited about both those young men.
Thank you, Michael. We'll go back to Chris Baldwin, please. Go ahead, Chris.
Uh, talking about JoJo and foul trouble, in the NBA, if you get to a certain level, your game's sort of called differently. You get fouls, maybe less or more if you're on offense. I mean, as a reigning, JoJo Defensive Player of the Year, do you sometimes wish that, he would get a different whistle?
Yes,
And that, is that respect factor, is that just not, with as many officials as there are in college basketball, is that just not something that,
I don't know. I mean, we're talking about something that is entirely hypothetical, so I have no idea how to answer that question. I mean, referee calls the foul. Sometimes JoJo fouls, sometimes he doesn't. But sometimes your reputation precedes you. A lot of times it's not always JoJo's fault. So, but um, we work on those things. Sometimes guys react different to certain things, but um, I just I probably don't worry about it as much as other people. But then again, I'm the coach. What would I know?
We'll go back to Chancellor Johnson, please. Chancellor?
Kelvin, with 1 week left in the regular season, you guys are one of four teams still competing for, at this point, three spots for a double bye in the Big 12 tournament. Just in a league this tough, just what can you speak to the value in being able to earn that?
Hadn't thought about that. First time that I've even had that mentioned. What we focus on, Chancellor, is we came in this morning, we watched film. Um, we have our accountability areas. We graded those. We gave out our reports. And uh, this afternoon, we'll go over Baylor's personnel and start getting ready for Baylor this afternoon. So that's about all I think about when it comes to that. But as far as the top of the league, um, uh, Arizona has been the last couple of years, Houston's probably been the class of the league. I think this year has been Arizona, but I think Kansas and Texas Tech, Iowa State, Houston, they've all had their moments. I think we've made each other better through competition. I think that's the beauty of our conference. We have outstanding coaches that have built great cultures. Um, it's why you come to schools like this to compete against the best. And the Big 12 Conference is one of the best conferences. So um, we're all going to go to the um, Big 12 tournament next week. Um, I think the last 2 years we've been a one seed. We will not be a one seed this year, but we're still going to go and play whoever they tell us to play.
Good time for a few more questions. We'll go to Manav Gupta, please. Manav, please go ahead.
Hey, Coach, I know you liked what you saw out of Mercy in the bench against Kansas, and I believe Mercy had a career high 4 steals against Colorado. Um, how would you characterize his growth this season and just what you've seen out of him? And I know this happened a few weeks back, but if you just had any thoughts on the dunk he had against Iowa State, I believe that was on SportsCenter's top play of the day that night as well.
I'd have more of a reaction had we won the game, had we not lost a 10-point lead down the stretch. I'd probably have a little more than that. But obviously, that's not the first time I've seen Mercy dunk like that. Mercy's, you know, and I'm sure you guys know guys like this in your profession. I think how you guys are hard workers and grinders and have earned um, the position you have, and you've worked your tail off to get to where you are, which is why you're all professionals and why you're good at what you do, and all you guys are. Uh, but none of you were born on third base and think you hit a triple, and sometimes People get an opportunity and maybe they just haven't grinded enough. Maybe they haven't fallen down enough and had to get up and dust themselves off enough. Well, Mercy has. You know, Mercy played about as much as he should have played last year. If I had to do it over again, I would not have changed one thing about our rotations or substitution patterns or anything about last year's team. Um, um, this year's team, we stayed with some guys, trying to instill some confidence here or trying to get a kid to play a little bit better there. And um, but I tell all our guys, no matter who it is coming off the bench, last year it was Terrence and Malik and Javier. This year's been Isaiah and Mercy and Chase, Ramon, Khalifa. Um, but as the season goes on, you have to react to your team and you have to react to moments and you have to react to who's playing well and who's not. Um, um, but Mercy came from the dugout. He didn't start on third base now. He's put in his time. He's got his scars. You know, he's had his nose bloodied. He kept coming back every day. And I kept talking to him about the importance of showing up every day and being disappointed that you didn't get to play, but channeling that disappointment into work with the right attitude. That's the only way you're going to survive in life. Life's not fair. Being a coach is not always fair. Being a player is not always fair. Being a referee is not always fair. And nothing's fair, but you still have to show up every day. You still have to come in with the right attitude, and you still have to come in um, um, and understand that it's a competition, and everything's a competition in life. The first thing they do to start a basketball game is to jump ball. Somebody's going to get the tip. And both guys are tipping it, but somebody's going to get it. So you compete to get the tip, and from there on in till the whistle blows, you're competing on a block out. You're competing on a loose ball. You're competing to get a shot off before he can contest it. You're trying to contest it to try to get him to miss before he can shoot it. Everything's a competition. That's the most important thing Mercy had to learn. Mercy, Mercy never had to compete. He's just always won with talent. And um, but I'm really, really proud of Mercy. Um, you know, Mercy committed to me when he was 15 years old, and he held that commitment. And here we are now, Mercy's 20, and he's still committed. That's not the way it is at most places. Chancellor mentioned that a little bit earlier. But there's a respect factor that I have for Mercy that makes my heart swell. It makes me feel good inside to see where he is based on where he's been. And that's why I said earlier, is you have to be allowed to screw up. You have to be allowed to make mistakes. You have to understand that that is important, that playing bad is part of playing good. Going from good, going from bad to average, average to good, and good. Not everybody can be great. Not everybody has that ceiling. You know, some guys' ceilings is good. But the problem with kids that have a chance to be great, their biggest enemy is good. Sometimes the biggest enemy of great is good. But I told Mercy that he needs to keep pushing his ceiling up, even though sometimes he's not getting the immediate feedback that he wants. But that is a tremendous, tremendous characteristic that young man has. He's never had a bad day of practice. Now, there's been days when I've gotten on him because he wasn't doing this right or that right, but he's worked and worked and worked and worked in silence, um, um, away from people. He's been invisible at times, but when his time came, he was ready. And I'm excited about Mercy going forward because Mercy has the ability to make our team better. But Uh, Not everybody's time comes when you want it to come, but if you'll hang in there and have the right attitude and be mature, um, most immature people can't handle adversity. They can't handle bad things. You have to be really mature to handle that. And Mercy is a very mature young man. He's got a great mother and father. I know them both well, and I applaud them for how they've stood by Mercy during some of his darkest days, toughest times. But this is a great lesson um, for all our kids in this program. You know, nothing's going to be given to you, and what other people think or say is really irrelevant. It's what you've earned, and then when your moment comes, be ready. And Mercy has.
Time for two more questions. One of them will go to Chris Baldwin, please. Go ahead, Chris.
Calvin, when did you start, that tradition of starting all the seniors on senior night? Does that go back to your Montana Tech days even? And has how you look at senior night changed since you were a young coach?
Montana Tech, and no, it hasn't changed.
And for last question of the day, we'll go back to Chancellor Johnson, please. Chancellor, go ahead.
Hey, Kelvin, I'm not for sure when was the first time you were able to check out Cameron Carr for the first time, but for him to jump with the numbers wise, for what he did, past couple years to now almost 20 a game in a league like this, what does it say about his talent and the job that Scott Drew has done with him over there?
Yeah, I don't. I didn't know who he was until this year, so I have no recollection prior to this year. I know now because we played him once. He played for Rick Barnes at Tennessee, um, but I've never talked to Rick about him, vice versa. Um, but you know what? You know what he did though that was good, Chancellor. He chose the right school for him. That's important for young men. Don't ever get upset at a kid for choosing another school when he wanted to come to your school, because sometimes your school may not be the best thing for him. We've lost kids, and when he called me, I said, "Man, you made a great decision. I'm happy for you. You're going to kill it there. It's not going to hurt your school, especially if you got a great program. Losing a kid here and there is irrelevant." But Carr made a great decision. He made a great decision choosing uh, Coach Scott Drew and his staff, because he's allowed him to flourish. He's allowed him to blossom, and he's made a big name for himself. And he's done it against the best teams in college basketball. So good for Carr, good for Cameron. He made a great choice. And so kudos to him for choosing Coach Drew and going to play for someone that's going to bring out the best in you.